More details have been released as to why Molly Qerim abruptly quit ESPN. And when I say abruptly quit, I mean she left work, I think it was on Monday, and she never came.
Last night, she abruptly resigned as the host of the show. And to say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement.
Was Molly Qerim's exit from ESPN really just a fresh start? Or are we staring down a plot so messy it could rattle even the most hardened ESPN insiders? The whispers are wild, and the speculation is spreading like wildfire across social feeds, leaving every sports fan turned detective piecing together clues. This isn't your everyday TV shuffle or a smooth contract fade out. Not even close. What's unfolding sounds like a twisted mix of secret grudges, behind-the-scenes sabotage, and accusations so heavy they could flip the network upside down. Double crosses are being hinted at like this is some midnight thriller, and it's got ESPN looking less like a sports empire and more like a sinking ship scrambling for excuses. The silence from the top dogs only adds fuel to the chaos because nobody seems willing to step up and explain what's really happening.
Times when you have someone abruptly quit a job, they're not leaving on the best terms. Normally, it's polite to give your employer some kind of notice.
For over a decade, Molly Qerim wasn't just a face on First Take, she was the anchor holding it together. Right beside Stephen A. Smith, she balanced his fiery outbursts, kept egos in check, and made sure the show never tipped into total meltdown. To the public, she looked like calm control. But behind the curtain was something far darker simmering all along. It all looked like the perfect recipe for live sports debate greatness. Until one morning, Molly simply vanished from the lineup. Just like that, fans woke up to a First Take desk without its steady voice, and the rumor mill exploded. Sure, Molly dropped the polished farewell on Instagram, giving shout-outs to the brilliant, passionate, and entertaining voices she worked with, and thanking the loyal audience. But anyone who knows how this industry really works could see through that sugarcoating in a heartbeat. Public goodbyes are where the real tea goes into hiding, and if you blinked, you might have missed the way ESPN went into full-on scramble mode, rushing to slap a PR bandage over the wound. Out rolled the flowery tributes, the polite thank yous, the glossy nostalgia.
She was quitting right now. Both ESPN and Molly Qerim, they are trying to polish the they're trying to make this look like an amicable divorce. And look, maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. Maybe they couldn't come to an agreement and they agreed to amicably part ways. I'm more interested in...
But not a single hint about the storm already brewing off camera. And oh, what a storm it turned out to be. In a plot twist ripped straight from a messy soap opera, the opening allegations didn't come from ESPN or even Molly herself, but from a woman claiming to be Stephen A. Smith's ex-girlfriend. This self-proclaimed whistleblower didn't just lob a few complaints, she aimed a blowtorch right at the studio's spotless image. Her claims that Molly Qerim was secretly running a ruthless takedown campaign against Stephen A. Smith, leaking sensitive contract details, feeding rumors to his rivals, and worst of all, allegedly planting a story about harassment designed to nuke his entire career. The alleged motive, a toxic cocktail of revenge, power hunger, and what the accuser described as raw envy of Stephen A.'s spotlight. Fans' jaws hit the floor, because if even a sliver of this is true, it paints Molly's exit in a whole new and way darker light. Ballooning contract. Molly wants Stephen A. money without Stephen A. talent. That's the sneer from a now infamous rant that sent shockwaves through the sports world.
Well, let's remember, wasn't it just last week Stephen A. was on air bragging about the people he stood up for to get paid and how many, Cam, I did it for Shannon Sharp and I did it for this person and that person. And when I look at the abrupt, I'm not coming into work tomorrow.
Yeah.
That also is like, maybe there's pointing a finger at Stephen A.
It wasn't just shade about hosting duties. It was a declaration of war over who really owned the stage and who was being shoved into the shadows. Even if you sprinkle a little doubt on those claims, there's no denying the vibes inside ESPN were like a ticking time bomb, ready to explode. For months, sharp-eyed fans and staffers caught the tension boiling between Molly and Stephen A. And this wasn't the usual playful sparring. It was sharp, raw, and painfully personal, with moments so awkward they made live TV feel like reality drama. Clips started circulating showing the two clashing live over everything, from guest bookings to digs about salary and control. Molly once dropped a line about not even being able to go to the bathroom without Stephen A. Smith knowing, and Stephen A. snapped back with those half-joking, half-serious shots that made everyone wonder, was this beef just for ratings, or was the green room war spilling onto the set? In sports media, whispers spread spread faster than press releases, and soon the tension had sprouted 1,000 conspiracy theories. But the real explosion? Sources say it went down just weeks before Molly's sudden walk-off. Multiple insiders point to a behind-the-scenes blow-up at ESPN's Connecticut headquarters, a fight so vicious that security had to step in to separate them. Depending on who you believe, it wasn't just a spat. It was the ultimate boiling point of years of buried resentment, finally detonating in the open. Stephen A. allegedly blasting Molly with accusations of betrayal, while Molly snapped back claiming she was the one being sabotaged. The fight, insiders say, unfolded in a room full of frazzled producers, scrambling to make sure the chaos didn't hit Slack threads or land in the laps of ESPN's higher-ups. This wasn't the kind of spat that ends with a handshake and a casual, "See you Monday." No, this was scorched earth. The type of screaming match that makes it clear there's no walking it back, only damage control to manage. And when the fallout hit, it hit ESPN's front office first. The suits rushed to pump out gentle, controversy-free statements, spinning Molly's exit as personal growth and turning the page. Burke Magnus, ESPN's president of content, even sprinkled in corporate poetry, praising Molly as an integral part of ESPN since 2006, while claiming the network was just trying to shift her into new opportunities. Business as usual, he said. But insiders know better. When a network swears there's no other shoe to drop, you'd better duck, because a boot to the face is usually coming next.
I think we'll start with Molly Qerim.
Oh, she's out.
She, yesterday when we talked, we knew that she was leaving, but we didn't know she was leaving like immediately, which is an indication that, man, this thing's a bit more complicated than just they couldn't settle on the money. It just seems more seriously. She's off the show.
Then came the kicker, the timing. As Molly's farewell dominated headlines, news suddenly broke that Malika Andrews had inked a massive new contract. Fans immediately went into a frenzy asking, was this pure coincidence or a carefully timed swap? One star anchor out, another star anchor in, designed to distract from the real mess behind closed doors? And Stephen A., he wasn't about to play silent. On air, he gave a somber performance, telling viewers, to say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement. But was that sadness genuine grief, or a little theater to cover just how ugly things had really gotten behind the cameras? But Stephen A. wasn't about to spill the real tea, not on camera. The details, quite frankly, are none of your business, he told his audience before adding, it's not as if I know all the details. That's basically the same as hanging a giant do not enter sign on a room where everyone just heard glass shatter. Off-air chaos sealed off with a smile. And then came his cryptic tease. That story is for her to tell. Do I have an idea? Of course I do. Am I going to share it with you? No. It was the perfect recipe for nonstop speculation. A flashing neon sign that whatever went down behind closed doors wasn't clean, wasn't polished, and definitely wasn't meant for daylight. Meanwhile, the rumor mill kicked into overdrive. Social media detectives started combing through every awkward on-air moment between Molly and Stephen A. Every stiff smile, every tense exchange, every little remark suddenly looked like a smoking gun. One clip in particular caught fire, a live segment where Stephen A. cracked a joke about Molly's eating habits during commercial breaks.
Whether she goes to FS1 or launches her own show on YouTube, I wish Molly Qerim nothing but the best. I don't want to see her fail, but at the same time, I don't see a path to success. It is hard to build an audience by yourself. It's hard to build and sustain an audience when it's just you.
On the surface, maybe it was just a throwaway line, but fans weren't buying it. The backlash hit instantly, with critics calling the joke inappropriate and accusing Stephen A. of harboring a long-standing grudge. Theories blew up overnight. Was this a subtle dig, a petty power play, or proof their partnership had been crumbling for months? Suddenly, every smile on first take, every sigh, every side eye between them was dissected like evidence in a true crime documentary. Fans weren't just watching sports talk anymore. They were convinced they were watching a Cold War play out live on ESPN, frame by frame. Meanwhile, the so-called receipts from Stephen A.'s alleged ex started snowballing across social media, painting Molly as the mastermind behind not just manufactured scandals, but secret alliances with ESPN managers who supposedly had their own axes to grind against Stephen A. What took shape looked less like a workplace and more like a battleground of egos, jealousy, and backstabbing straight out of a soap opera. Even bolder were the whispers about Molly's contract demands spiraling way out of control, ballooning so high that insiders claimed it sparked an all-out war over who truly deserved to call the shots and rake in the bigger checks. Fans couldn't believe it. Was ESPN's Golden Girl really fighting for empire-level money while locking horns with its biggest star? And if you listen to the conspiracy crowd, ESPN wasn't just sitting back. They were playing their own dirty game. The theory, the network was less concerned with keeping the peace and way more focused on guarding their image, especially with rival networks circling like sharks in the water. But that leads to the million-dollar question. What could drive a network staple like Molly to risk it all? Her alliances, her reputation, even her health, on a scorched earth campaign of sabotage, if that's really what happened? Was this about shoving Stephen A. off his throne? Was it about grabbing his paycheck? Or was it pure desperation to avoid being pushed aside as ESPN courted the next big star with the next monster contract? The truth is tangled in bias and self-preservation, but the stakes here couldn't have been higher. And just when things couldn't get more complicated, whispers about Molly's private health battle surfaced, dragged into the spotlight by none other than the ex's rants. For some, it painted her as an unlikely villain, too fragile for war. But for others, the timing looked suspicious, as if illness was either a sympathy card.
A lot of times, some of these things happen, and it's just uncomfortable to see. The details, quite frankly, are none of y'all business. But it's not as if I know all the details. It was a contract negotiation that was going on. ESPN certainly did not want to lose her. But in the end, she made a decision.
Or the perfect excuse to slip out quietly before the whole scandal exploded. Now we're staring straight at the fallout, a studio stripped of its anchor, a lineup of hopeful replacements waiting in the wings, and a network desperately pushing the narrative that this is all just business as usual. But nobody's buying that neat little cover story. The scandal's embers are still glowing, and the missing puzzle pieces keep everyone glued to the drama. Stephen A. has been teasing the world with just enough cryptic hints to keep the speculation machine churning, but never enough to close the case. Why won't he just spill it all? Is he shielding himself, protecting Molly, or guarding something way bigger and way more explosive than anyone's ready to admit? The trail gets juicier by the day. Every leak, every shady side-eye, every subtle jab adds fuel to the fire. And yet, the loudest voice in sports suddenly found a way to master silence. The moment Molly Qerim's exit hit the public, Stephen A. wrapped his words in velvet caution like a rope across a crime scene. The details, quite frankly, are none of your business. None of your business? Please, when has Stephen A. ever held back unless the stakes were radioactive? His sudden forgetfulness and selective silence speak louder than any tell-all interview could. Fans can feel it. There's more here than meets the eye. Is he afraid of implicating himself? Or is he sitting on secrets so dangerous they could blast careers all the way up to ESPN's C-suite? So here we are, left to sift through cryptic crumbs like detectives on a stormy night, straining to catch the faint flicker of light behind blackout curtains. Every clue feels like a warning, and the final revelation could change everything. Molly packs her bags, leaves ESPN in the rear view, and chaos rushes in to fill the void.
Jason, I actually watched that whole video clip of Stephen A. Smith. I just thought it was funny. It ain't none of y'all business. It was a contract negotiation. Well, so that was about the money. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for cluing. It's always about the money, though. It's like in boxing. Why didn't this fight happen? Easy, there wasn't enough.
The network that once thrived on clashing personalities is suddenly in full-blown damage control mode, scrambling to convince the world everything's fine. But behind the glossy press releases, a very different story is taking shape. Enter Malika Andrews, promoted at lightning speed and handed a contract extension so sweet it felt less like a deal and more like a reward for simply standing in the right spotlight at the right moment. Fans immediately began asking the big question, was this just lucky timing? Or had the network been plotting this swap all along? Did ESPN slide Molly quietly out the back door so Malika could sweep in and steal the stage? Or maybe Molly wasn't the star of this story at all. Maybe she was just another pawn sacrificed in a bigger, messier chess match unfolding behind ESPN's glass walls. One seasoned producer, who survived more shakeups than a California fault line, confessed that power struggles have become the new sport inside ESPN. And in that game, no one, no matter how big their name, is safe from being body checked by the system.
When I heard that it was immediate, I was like, oh, she must already have a job lined up. Mm-hmm. And the job that she has lined up must be some sort of competitor to ESPN. And so that made me, is she going to Fox Sports?
Follow the money, and the picture sharpens even more. Insiders say the swelling influence of Stephen A. Smith is impossible to ignore. His paychecks now rival NFL head coaches, and his word carries enough weight to overshadow even the old school execs. Every time ESPN signs off on another multi-million-dollar deal for Stephen A., the tension inside the studio ratchets up another notch. And with stakes that high, Molly's exit may not have been an ending at all, but just the first domino to fall. It's no secret, plenty of longtime anchors and producers have started bristling at Stephen A.'s ballooning influence. With him calling more and more of the shots and Malika racing full speed toward her own empire, Molly's exit looks less like a coincidence and more like collateral damage in a nasty turf war. The suits keep chanting business as usual, but the timing feels calculated, like a careful extraction of anyone who didn't fit neatly into ESPN's new power grid. And just when it seemed the plot couldn't twist any tighter, whispers started flying about Molly's so-called blackmail folder. That's right, more than one well-placed insider claims she kept a secret digital arsenal stuffed with sensitive emails, off-the-record recordings, and years of juicy gossip about both top execs and on-air stars. If even half of those rumors are true, that folder would be the sports media version of a nuclear button, an ultimate bargaining chip in the hands of someone ready to cash out or guarantee themselves a soft landing far away from Bristol. Some speculate it wasn't just Molly's illness, her feud with Stephen A., or her ballooning contract demands that sped up her exit. It was the looming threat of that hidden stash. Think about it. If leadership knew Molly was sitting on a treasure chest of dirt.
The other thing I thought, Steve, was when you pay Stephen A. Smith $20 million, that means, okay, well, whoever his co-host is, they're going to want an exorbitant amount of money. And so she may have been making $2.5, $3 million as the host. Well, when Stephen A. is sitting there making 20, well, maybe now she wants to make 10.
Wouldn't that explain the lightning-fast PR spin, the delicate language, and the obsessive caution about how her departure was leaked? The fear wasn't just about losing a face on TV. It was about a potential bomb being dropped that could blast ESPN's power structure wide open. So what kind of dirt could Molly really be sitting on? One former production assistant claims she spotted emails about bitter contract squabbles and even unsent draft complaints aimed at certain colleagues. Another insider swears there are voice memos, raw recordings of uncomfortable exchanges between anchors and management. The exact contents of this so-called blackmail folder remain locked in mystery. But the rumors alone are enough to make ESPN's top brass sweat bullets. Insiders say the network's legal team has gone into full Fort Knox mode, locking down files, sealing off leaks, and treating this like a high-stakes boardroom thriller. Just imagine it. One perfectly timed leak, and the whole house of cards could come crashing down in front of millions. And here's where the public splits. Some fans have rallied behind Molly, painting her as a survivor who fought back against a hostile workplace that underestimated her. Others, though, see her as a cold strategist, a master manipulator who finally gambled one too many times and got caught in her own trap. The truth, it might be both, because in today's media world, where influence is measured in trending hashtags and paycheck zeros, does playing fair even exist anymore? Molly's exit statement may have radiated sunshine, all smiles and thank yous. I'm so grateful for what this journey has given me. Lifelong friendships, unforgettable memories, and the chance to be part of something truly special. But behind that curtain of gratitude, fans can't help but wonder, was she really walking away gracefully or walking away holding the most dangerous secrets ESPN has ever tried to bury? We can't ignore the sound of doors slamming shut as Molly exits, but the ripple effects are way bigger than just one host's career. ESPN, once seen as untouchable, is now wobbling under whispers of backstabbing ambition and unchecked power plays. Inside the halls, staffers are asking the dangerous question: has the very culture that made ESPN a media empire started to eat itself alive? Now paranoia spreads like wildfire. Who's next to pursue other opportunities? Which scandal will be quietly buried before it hits the headlines? Executives keep repeating that tired line. There's no other shoe to drop. But behind the scenes, every former host, producer, and even interns with old grudges are watching closely, waiting for the perfect moment to unload their receipts. And right at the center of it all, Stephen A. Smith. His cryptic silence is gasoline on the fire. He's kept just enough distance to avoid being cornered, never outright denying, never confirming, but always leaving breadcrumbs that remind the world. In this business, everyone has skeletons in the closet. Will he escape untouched? Or are the coming weeks about to drag him into the harshest spotlight of his career? Meanwhile, the media sharks are circling. Talk shows and podcasts are already dissecting every awkward grin, every clipped comment, every loaded pause on air, hunting for the next scandal to break wide open. ESPN has always thrived on heated debates, but nothing could prepare them for the one that's about to explode behind their own doors.
Molly is a friend. Molly is a co-worker. Molly is somebody that I have leaned on many occasions in the past, as she has done when it comes to me. We've been partners on the show for the last...
Could it blow up contract negotiations, trigger walkouts, or even force execs to suddenly step down for personal reasons? If that folder is real, it might not just be a scandal. It could be the fuse that detonates ESPN's entire empire. And as for Malika, how secure is any seat on ESPN's throne when the floor is shaking beneath everyone's feet? This network has dodged plenty of scandals before, but this one feels different, more personal, more radioactive, and dangerous enough to scorch even the biggest names if even a fraction of what insiders are whispering turns out to be true. Because right now, ESPN's juiciest drama isn't on the debate desk. It's unfolding in the boardroom. One thing's certain, the fallout from Molly Qerim's shocking exit is only just beginning. And in Bristol, every locked door suddenly looks like a possible escape route for the next unlucky staffer on the chopping block. Will new secrets erupt onto the timeline? Is Stephen A. Smith about to face the harshest reckoning of his entire career? And how many skeletons are buried under the First Take set, waiting to be unearthed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think really went down? And whose side are you on as this scandal keeps spiraling? This is the chaotic world of sports media, where nothing stays secret for long. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your inbox locked, and remember, at ESPN, nobody's spot is ever truly safe. And hey, if you don't want to miss the next twist in this wild saga, make sure you hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications because trust me, the story is far from over.